Namaste and good evening all. We've had some very interesting and in fact inspiring panel discussions today. So thank you Seva International and Rewards for organizing this very important conference. For this session, I want to bring in a global perspective, focusing on the power of the diaspora and the global dais, highlighting global action for a local issue. While global attention is often towards the melting ice at the North Pole and the South Pole, a major crisis is brewing in the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, the third pole, where water, power, and geopolitics are dangerously entwined. And I want to emphasize why the world needs to pay attention to this particular region. Can I have the next slide, please? So we all know why the Himalayas are important, but I want to emphasize a few points. The Himalayas are not just a regional concern, they're a global asset, the source of Asia's major rivers, and a climate regulator. An estimated 1.5 billion people depend on the Himalayas for food, water, energy, and livelihoods. The Himalayas are a global biodiversity hotspot. And when it comes to the cultural and spiritual significance, the Himalayas are considered sacred by so many groups like Hindus, Buddhists, and Jains. They're also believed to be the home of deities and a symbol of spiritual awakening. And it's equally important to recognize their strategic significance. The region serves as a critical buffer between two nuclear powers, India and China. Perhaps even more crucial is the fact that Asia's major river systems originate in the Tibetan Plateau, which is under China's control. Now, this makes this region increasingly vulnerable to water insecurity, geopolitical pressure, and environmental risks. Now, we've been discussing challenges all day, but I've got a few challenges here with some critical figures highlighting the seriousness of the problem. And so the first one here is the melting glaciers. Now, glaciers have been melting 65% faster since 2010. In fact, this region is three times hot. This region is warmer, that to 3 times than the global average. When it comes to water scarcity and health risks, approximately half of the 3 million springs have reportedly been dried up or are drying. This affects 50 million of people. Then, of course, we're aware about the tectonic vulnerabilities. This is the most tectonically volatile mountain region in the world. And so, building hydropower projects, approximately 500 plus, are planned or under construction. We need to understand what kind of risk this poses on an already very seismically active region. Then we have the changing economic landscape. From traditional farming and agriculture, now we see more rapid urbanization, in fact, unsustainable urbanization and tourism. This has led to 40 to 50% of expansion in certain towns like Srinagar, Leh, Gangtok, Shimla, and Guwahati. They've experienced explosive growth. And this has put immense pressure on the resources. And then comes the upcoming challenge. We often talk about AI advancement, but we don't often talk about the cost of AI, in fact, the hidden cost of AI in terms of energy and water. And so just to give you a glimpse, India's data centers already consume 0.5% of the nation's electricity. This is supposed to go up to 3% by 2030. And in terms of water, this is 300,000 gallons of water, which is enough for the usage of 100,000 homes daily. In fact, we use ChatGPT every single day. But one prompt on ChatGPT for a 100-word request can take up to 500 milliliters of water. So these data centers require fresh water for cooling. Now, this is another challenge, and we need to see how this impacts the Himalayan ecosystem. And of course, as I mentioned, the geopolitical sensitivity. That cannot be ignored, knowing that India is a downstream country, and the rapid building of dams is another concern. And so now I straight on want to get onto the topic of diaspora, because that's the main topic of this panel discussion. What is the role of diaspora? Why is the diaspora important? So I've got some figures here focusing on the UK, the Indian diaspora in the US and the UK. We've got 5.2 million Indian diaspora in the US, 1.93 million in the UK. In terms of education, they hold high degrees, 77% high degrees in the US, whereas 52% in the UK, which is highest among ethnic groups. In terms of household income, again, highest among all ethnic groups. And in the UK, 71% own homes, which implies wealth. Even the employment rate in both the countries is higher, 76% and 72% respectively. And we all know about the business influence. We often talk about 16 CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies in the US and 850 plus Indian-owned firms in the UK. And accordingly, we have enough, in terms of economic contribution, we can see the numbers on the slide. And we're also aware of the political representation. Dozens of elected officials in the US and 15 plus member of parliaments and lords in the UK. So how can we channel the power of the diaspora? Now, the key is to tap into knowledge, technical expertise, and advocacy clout of the influential Indian diaspora in the interest of the Himalayan region. And so one of the diaspora-led initiatives is our center, International Center for Sustainability in London. This is an independent think tank and advisory group. We do research to nudge policy, driving strategy, sustainability, and security. This is fully funded by the Indian diaspora, and we focus on the 3 Ps, protecting people, planet, and profit through sustainable means. We focus on global alliances for local action, tapping into the linkages between UK, US, and India. At the center, we have 20 plus global fellows, experts in climate, security, business, government, and policy. And at the center, we've realized how important the Himalayan region is globally. And so this year itself, we've launched strategic initiatives on the Himalayas, which I will be discussing in the next slide. And so what we're doing at the center is mobilizing the diaspora potential, linking knowledge, capital, and compassion. And so these are the 2 projects that we're focusing on this year at the center. The first one is on India's water security. Although it looks at the India's water challenges overall, a major part of the project focuses on the Himalayan challenges. For this, we've established a steering committee with various stakeholders from the UK, US, and India. And this includes water experts, research institutes, NGOs, private sector, as well as policymakers, to not only assess the severity of the water crisis, but also propose sustainable solutions, again, tapping into our connections globally. The second project directly focuses on sustainable future of the Himalayan region. We are at the moment working on a policy paper why UK should have a Himalayan policy as part of its climate leadership and play a stabilizing role given the Chinese expansionism and ecological exploitation in the region. And so really moving on to the concluding slide. 600 million lives in India depend on this region. And so it's a global responsibility to protect this region. And I've just listed a few interventions by diaspora that have actually made significant difference on ground. The first one is by the Hinduja Foundation, a philanthropic arm of the UK billionaire Hinduja family. They've introduced a women-led leadership model in water conservation in the remote villages of Uttarakhand. They head village committees, manage plantation drives, and track spring rejuvenation efforts. And under their leadership, 140 mountain springs have been rejuvenated, 210 rainwater harvesting systems have been put in place, and 100,000 trees have been planted. And we were just discussing how women really face the brunt of such crisis. So what they've done is they've combined conventional wisdom and used more modern science-based tools like geological mapping, water budgeting, and monthly flow monitoring to get to this solution. Another example is a UK-based Might and Hospice and the UK-based diaspora. They've together collaborated to fundraise for the conservation efforts in the Himalayan region and create awareness by organizing treks. This not only informs the diaspora about the challenges of the Himalayan communities, but also give them a chance to directly contribute to the conservation efforts. And another example is the American Himalayan Foundation. Now, this foundation works wholly and solely in the health sector, and they've supported health clinics in the remotest villages of the Himalayan region, and they've reached up to 56,000 people. So in conclusion, I want to conclude by saying that ecological crisis brewing in the Himalayas is not just India's or any one country's problem. This is a global concern with repercussions for all. And so a global response is the need of the hour. Thank you so much.